Hey everyone, let's talk about clairalience or clear smelling. It's a psychic ability you might want to work with if you aren't already, if you have a really strong sense of smell or you just really like smells. Um, you might have guessed by the title of this video, I smell a rat, and you can too, that I really like working with smells. I do also have a very strong sense of smell. Very quickly, it's important to say, if you are not able to access your physical sense of smell, you can still access the psychic sense of smell. And that goes for all the senses and psychic abilities. You do not have to be able to physically smell to pick up on psychic smells. So let me tell you the story behind I smell a rat. You've probably heard that saying, I smell a rat, and it typically means something along the lines of this person is behaving like a shyster. They're misrepresenting themselves, lying, cheating, stealing, some type of dirty deed. There's some form of, yeah, it's like lying, cheating. There's some kind of bad behavior, misrepresenting, withholding information, whatever. So had some work opportunities pop up. There was one that I was like, yes, I'm going to say yes to that. I just know I need to say and want to say yes to that. Another was like, oh, that's a maybe, I need to get more information. And another that it was a clear no, like, no way, man, not doing that. So I have a real strong claircognizance. I just know things. That's my main psychic ability. I use all the psychic abilities because I love that enriching experience of bringing all the senses to the table, and just like building that big picture. It's just fun for me. I really enjoy it. I can get all the information just through one, but I like working with all of them. So in the situation where I knew it was a yes, I still wanted to get some more information. So one morning I just said, okay, this opportunity and this person. And I got a whiff of roadkill. So my smell for a person behaving like a rat, a shyster, is basically the smell of like a mouse or a rat dying in the wall of your house and you can't get it out and you're just stuck with that rotten smell, or like roadkill, basically. And it's just an awful, awful smell, the decomposing body of a dead animal. And so it was a whiff, it was a very subtle whiff. And that told me a few things. Okay, I I knew I needed to say yes and I wanted to say yes, but I'm getting this whiff of roadkill, this yucky smell. It's a whiff and it's a really short smell. It told me a few things. It told me one, the smell was really subtle. So the effects of this bad behavior, of this misinformation, this misrepresentation, this withholding information was going to be very mild. The fact that the smell lasted a very short amount of time let me know that this person doesn't have a track record of this behavior. This isn't some consistent thing they engage in. It's maybe a one-off or it's inconsistent. And there was this other aspect of the smell that let me know this wasn't entirely intentional. This person is maybe a little bit misled, misguided, had something to learn, and they weren't just this wasn't some kind of nefarious endeavor. It was just there was just some funky stuff going on and some growth points to happen through this experience. And so the effects were going to be mild, and anything that happened that wasn't advantageous was going to resolve itself pretty quickly and easily. So the other work opportunity that was an absolute no for me, I just had this knowingness, I have to say no to that, it's going to be awful. I said, okay, I want more information though. So I smelled the roadkill, the the dead rat in the wall of the house smell, and it was gag worthy. It was, ugh. I mean, it was so strong, and it lasted longer. And that told me that the effects would be severe, and this person has a history of this type of behavior. And the other kinds of things I was picking up on with the range of this smell, the layers of this smell, was that there were going to be other negative aspects to this. And I didn't want to have anything to do with that. And they were going to be somewhat lasting. So it was just an absolute no for me. You do not have to work with yucky, disgusting, noxious smells like I do. You absolutely do not. You don't have to work with smells the way I do, where I choose to change the saturation and the duration. These are just my preferences. This is what I've developed over time, and it helps me work quickly, effectively, and it allows me to have fun with what I do, whether I'm reading for myself in my everyday life or in my professional reading space. Um, so, for example, let's say you really don't want to work with some of the smells I do. I work with a smell like burning plastic. I work with the smell, a dead body smell, because I do forensic work, so that helps me locate bodies. Um, I have different smells for cancer, for Lewy body dementia, ascites, infections. I have smells that let me know the degree of an infection. Um, that's when I do medical intuitive work. Um, I have some pretty noxious smells that I work with. So if you don't want to do that, my recommendation is that you find some smells that are neutral for you, or they're smells that you like, but you aren't going to associate with something particularly positive. Let me give you two really good examples. Let's say you love the smell of coffee, but you loathe the taste of it. That would be a great no smell for you. Maybe you love the smell of bacon and you want to barf every time you eat it. That's a great no smell for you because it smells good, but you have a negative association with it. That way you don't have to go into like my range of working with really disgusting smells. You can have a good smell that has a negative association. Best to do that than like, let's say you have a lot of flowers that you really like the smell of and you're using that in your no category. It's easy to get confused and forget. I mean, yes, you could make a list so that you have that, but it's probably going to be easier to work with smells that even if you like them, they have some kind of negative association. So let's say every time your family got into a fight, you were at that one park with that lilac bush. So lilacs smell good to you, but you associate them with family drama. And so anytime you're in a work situation or a personal situation where drama is going to be involved and you need to be alerted to that, that's what you smell. Um, I use all kinds of smells. You can get creative. It can be perfumes, essential oils, drinks, foods, things in nature like different smells that you get from soil, grass, fresh cut grass. You can use any kind of smell that you want. A tip that I have for you is to just go about your day and pay more attention to your smells, to what you have positive associations with and negative associations with, whether they smell good or bad, and see what repeats. See what smells you're around a lot. Like for me, I mean, I live outside for the most part. Roadkill is a common thing. I'm a road tripper. It's a common thing. So it's a smell that I regularly associate with anyway. So it was really easy for me every time I smelled that to associate it with something. So the smells that are already in your environment are going to be easier to develop these quick symbols for. You can also get online. A lot of people will place their lists of symbols. Um, they might say, okay, if I smell sulfur, it means this. If I smell sage, it means this. If I smell um, this other herb or whatever it might be. A lot of people have an established list. So if you're having a hard time coming up with ideas or you don't particularly want to use what's in your environment or the patterns you're picking up on, jump online, find somebody else's list and say, oh yeah, I like that, or I don't really like that one so much, or I don't know what that smells like, so I can't use that. That's a good way to go about it. Um, I have a couple of smells that came to me through a friend and a family member. My best friend died when I was in 8th grade, and her middle name is Rose. And originally, she would bring that smell to me to let me know that she wanted to talk, that she was around and she wanted to hang out and, you know, spend some time together. A great aunt of mine would come to me with a very particular floral smell that let me know something good was coming and to be patient. And so I've kept those smells. They've kind of evolved to mean other things, but it was really cool that those two people brought me smells and told me what they were associated with and said, hey, be on the lookout for this. Roses meant before, hey, I want to talk to you, I want to hang out, we're buddies. Then it slowly evolved over time as she and I would talk to say, I'm going to bring you this smell when you're on the right path or when there's something new and exciting happening. You know, she and I worked on that together and it evolved over time. My great aunt, she and I worked on that smell and it evolved over time to mean different things to me. And we were in relationship and conversation about that. So many different ways that you could come up with your list of smells and what they mean to you, what your symbol is for that smell. I want to pause and just say two really important things about psychic abilities before I wrap up with how you can develop your sense of smell a little better. We talked about symbols, but let's talk a little bit more how to develop your psychic abilities. But before we do, I want to say these two things. One, I hear this a lot in the classes I teach. Almost everybody comes to me and says, I've heard this, I've read this top tier psychic or energy worker said this. And that is that there's a hierarchy of psychic abilities. This is the most admirable, the most respected psychic ability. This is the high class psychic ability. This psychic ability is better than that psychic ability. That is not true. It's not true. It's all in how well you've developed it. It's not that one psychic ability is better than the other, it's how well have you developed that psychic ability. I had a student send me a newsletter that they got from some really well-known energy worker, and I think somebody who teaches psychic development. I'm not really sure. And this person said in this newsletter, if you're a professional or you're doing this in your everyday life, working with intuition, regardless of whether you're a professional or everyday use, and you're working with clairsentience, then you're going to make mistakes. And you need to be working with, I think the two were claircognizance and clairvoyance, and saying that those were the two that were respectable. Those were the two that were infallible. Those were the two that you should aspire to. No! All of the reasons that were listed in that newsletter or article or whatever it was against clairsentience have nothing to do with that psychic ability itself, more to do with how well you develop it. Rant over. Okay, point number two. This always comes up in classes, and most recently, a few weeks ago, I had 3 people in class, or 2, 3, no, I think that was when I had 3. And 2 of the people were working with like 2 or 3 psychic abilities, and this one person was only working with 1 psychic ability and said to me, they're better at this because they're now working with 2 and 3 psychic abilities. They're better psychics because they're working with more psychic abilities. Also, not true. You can be an Olympian psychic and just work with 1. I have lots of friends and colleagues and know of some professionals who only work with 1, and they are brilliant with the 1 that they work with. They get the same amount of information, the same quality of information, the same type of information as someone who's working with multiple psychic abilities. So get that out of your head. Okay, so you've decided you want to work with smell. How can you develop it further? The most basic, obvious thing is to start connecting with your sense of smell more. Pay attention. Earlier, we talked about paying attention to your smells so that you could pick up on patterns, so that you can make associations. Now, let's talk about how you're going to do that because it's going to help you develop that psychic ability specifically. The more you pay attention to that sense and you set that intention that you want to develop that psychic ability, the more it's going to happen for you. So start making it happen by doing this. You already have a situation where you know the answer is yes or no to. Yes, I'm going to go to this event. No, I'm not going to hang out with that person. Okay, so I already know that. So my smell for yes is honey. So I'm going to say yes to this and I'm going to pair honey. Okay, I'm going to think about that event. I'm going to feel, think, smell, hear, however you want to connect with that event, either mentally or whatever works for you, however your brain and body work. Then pair that smell. If you don't smell it psychically yet, grab your honey jar from your pantry, sniff it while you think about that event. Physically make that association. That will help. This person that you need to say no to hanging out with, you've decided that your smell for no is coffee because you're like, I love the smell, but I hate the taste. So grab some coffee beans, take a sniff, think about this person and saying no to doing whatever you were going to do with that person. Physically, make that association for yourself and set that intention. Next time, I will smell this psychically. So not only are you engaging with the sense of smell, but by noticing it more, engaging with it, and setting that intention to start picking up on smells, um, so that you can strengthen your sense of smell physically. Um, but you also start very purposefully when you know a yes or a no, pair your smell with it. And in the beginning, you really might need that item from your pantry or from your medicine cabinet or wherever, whatever smell. You might need to go outside and sniff grass or a flower or whatever while you think about your yes and your no. Um, that's just one way of developing it. I have some videos and some posts that I've made on Instagram with other ways to improve your intuition, like knowing yourself is important, neutrality, grounding, low risk practice, like we've already talked about, energy hygiene, other things like that. So stick around if you want to hear more about the remaining psychic abilities and for more tips on developing your intuition and psychic abilities and all things mediumship, energy, everything. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you later.